Today on Co-op for Two, a quick spoiler-free review of the latest game from Cryptic Killers, Murder on Mount Mortimer. After 10 games, have Cryptic Killers lost their touch? Let's find out. Cryptic Killers is in the genre of cold case games. That means you've got a dossier of evidence, photographs, diary entries, newspaper clippings. You can read them in whatever order you want, and after you finish playing, you'll have to answer a question or two, typically the identity of a murderer or suspect. This particular case, Murder on Mount Mortimer, is the latest case released in November 2024, not yet available on the Amazon.com US site, but will be for about $20. Typically, you can pick up the Cryptic Killer games anywhere from $15 to $20. I purchased this game myself. I have no relationship with the publisher. It'll take you about 2.5 hours to play through this case. It's rated officially at a difficulty of 4 out of 5, although our experience was that it was a little bit easier than that compared to the other Cryptic Killers games, maybe a 3.5. There is a little bit of internet use when you play the game. As with all of the Cryptic Killer games, it follows a formula, which is at some point, there's one website you'll go onto when you figure out the password, and then you'll get a half dozen little pieces of extra evidence. There is no replayability here. Once you play through it, you'll understand the mystery, but nothing gets destroyed, so you could pass it along or sell it after you finish. So I said this is a spoiler-free review. I do want to show you one document in here. We'll just glance through it to give you some idea of sort of the high quality of these Cryptic Killers games. But this is one of the props, the best prop in this set, the best little document in this set. But just take a look at the quality here and the density of information in this little brochure that is made up for this game. I mean, pretty neat, pretty nice to sink your teeth into that. I've become a bit of a broken record when it comes to the Cryptic Killers series. They do produce some of the most consistently solid, enjoyable, polished cold case games in the whole space of these games. None of them are bad, and this is no exception. This is actually a very good case. And like others in the series, the Cryptic Killer games are some of the best at producing little aha moments, twists, key pieces of evidence that take you a while to figure out. And when you do, you're like, I see it. And you crack the case. It's really a recipe, a formula here that they've perfected for producing good experiences. And it's really hard to go wrong with this series. And this case is no exception. I do have a very minor little complaint with this particular case, and that is that I feel like, unlike some of the other games in Cryptic Killer series, the way this one ends, the question it asks you to answer, it does feel like you might be able to get it right and have missed some important parts of the mystery. And I'm going to have some recommendations for you if you do decide to play this one. And I guess I would say, in terms of the other Cryptic Killers games, maybe this one had fewer documents that I really enjoyed digging into compared to some of the other Cryptic Killer games. My final rating for Murder on Mount Mortimer is a 9, and that's because all of the Cryptic Killer games are right up there, 8s, 9s, and 10s. They're just a fantastic series. But I would say if I was going to rank it in the set of 10, I would put it maybe in the a little bit above the middle. Not my favorite 3, but maybe ranked 4th down from the bottom. In fact, we had a great time with it. Our experience was really good and maybe would deserve a higher ranking there in terms of my personal experience with it. But I do worry that other groups might not quite have as amazing an experience with it. I think that's going to depend on your group. I do think it is easier than the harder other games ranked at 4 and 4.5 in the series. I think probably you could have a good time with it as your first case in the series, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think you should start with one of the 2.5 or 3 difficulty games and then work your way up to this, but it wouldn't be a bad second case. And it is a good medium level challenge. Let me close with some recommendations for how to get the most out of this game. First piece of advice holds for all the Cryptic Killer games, and that is that at the very beginning of this case, you'll be told about an internet web mail service that you can access for some extra evidence if you can break the password. And so one of the challenges is, while you go through these documents, to use the clue about the password to figure out the password, put it in, get access to the evidence. And you might be tempted to try to do that first. And I think that would be a mistake in this box and in all the other Cryptic Killers games. And that's because the evidence on the webmail is crucial. You will need to access it before the end of the case. But it does feel like it gives away some of the plot, some of the solutions. It's almost like they're hints. And it's fine to get that after you've gone through everything else as a little bit of confirmation of your theories. But I do think you should save that for last. Otherwise, you risk ruining some of the experience. The second piece of advice holds more for this game than the other Cryptic Killers games I've played, which is you should not guess at the answer, and you should not just put in the answer when you're pretty sure you know the identity of the killer or whatever. You should be very confident about the identity. You should understand a clear, strong motive, and you should have alibis for every other potential suspect. Until you're there, you should go back to your evidence and keep searching. There are some devious, clever little things here, and you will find those answers in these documents, but you may have to keep looking past the point where you have a strong suspicion of your culprit. If you do that, I think you will have the most fun here. Take your time. This is a game that deserves some serious attention and deserves taking it seriously. Okay, if you have a different opinion about this game, I'd like to hear it. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video.